Good evening, everybody. Just one day after President Bush signed legislation here in Washington to build a border fence, the government of Mexico is threatening the sovereignty and national security of the United States. President Vicente Fox and President-elect Felipe Calderon are both asserting that the United States has no right to build such a fence along our southern border. At the same time, the White House and its allies in corporate America appear determined to create a new North American Union incorporating Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Such a union would, in effect, create a giant nation, including those three countries. Casey Ryan tonight reports from Los Angeles on the Mexican government's most blatant attempt to interfere in U.S. affairs. Suzanne Malveaux reports from the White House on the Bush administration's reaction to Mexico's statements today. Lisa Sylvester reports from Washington on this administration's apparent determination to create a huge North American Union without authorization from the American people. And the Bush administration and corporate America in league forming a North American Union between and among the United States, Canada, and Mexico without consultation, of course, of the United States Congress or American citizens. We'll have that special report. It's unofficially known as the North American Union. Some, for some reason, suggest there's no such thing, that there is no plan to merge the United States, Mexico, and the United States without the knowledge and approval of the citizens of those three countries. Well, tonight, you're going to find out that there really is such a thing, and it's all part of a plan. Well, time now for some of your thoughts. Knox in Georgia saying, as a teacher who has just finished his fifth, let's try that all over again. As a teacher who has just finished his 30th year in the classroom, thank you for your report on parents being responsible for academic failure, chronic absenteeism, and dropouts. And Marie in Indiana, you are the only reporter I've heard mention the North American Union and the Nafta Highway. Why are the other reporters not talking about it? An excellent question.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
5 seconds. Well, mainstream media finally beginning to pick up on a story we've been reporting here for some time. The plan to build the super highway, yes, it really exists, all the way from Mexico through the United States to Canada. Critics say the so-called Nafta Super Highway is a first step towards eventual plans to merge Mexico, Canada, and the United States into effectively one nation. But federal officials are denying the plans for any such highway. In fact, they told the New York Times that a, quote, federal project for a behemoth highway bisecting the heart of the country and erasing America's borders is an urban legend. At the same time, the White House today announced that President Bush and Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper discussed ties between the two countries and relations with Mexico. The three leaders to hold a summit next month to discuss measures to make it easier to transport goods across our borders. Lawmakers believe that could result in even less border security, if that's imaginable.
From Hurricane Dean to politics, President Bush today made a new attempt to deepen U.S. links with Canada and Mexico. The president flew to Canada for a summit meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper and Mexican President Felipe Calderon. One of the key issues on their agenda, the so-called Security and Prosperity Partnership among the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. Suzanne Malveaux reports now from Quebec. Suzanne Malveaux, thank you very much for that report. Now, the White House insists the Security and Prosperity Partnership is not a threat to U.S. sovereignty. Critics of the partnership remain unconvinced. They say the SPP is an attempt to create an outright North American Union without congressional oversight. Christine Romans has the report. Robert Pastor, you have often been referred to as the father of the North American Union. You are an ardent supporter of this. Give us some of your reasons why. Don't you see this as part of us, the United States essentially, and for that matter, Mexico and Canada, essentially giving up some of its sovereignty?
No, quite the contrary. Sovereignty means the defense of nation, and greater cooperation with our neighbors means that our country will be defended better and will be both more secure and also more prosperous. I think if you want to build a wall and to keep out our two most important trading partners, our two most important sources of energy, this will diminish the sovereignty of our country. Cooperation is absolutely essential. I never proposed a North American Union. I think that's completely impractical and impossible. I do, however, believe that much deeper cooperation among the three countries is absolutely essential.
Susan, I want to switch gears, talk about this other issue that's out there, the creation of a new North American Union, if you will, similar to the EU, the European Union. The President was asked about this today at the summit meeting with the leaders of Mexico and Canada. Listen to what he said.
I'm amused by the difference between what actually takes place in the meetings and what some are trying to say takes place. It's quite comical, actually, when you realize the difference between reality and what some people are talking on TV about.
All right, well, what is the background? What's going on here?
Well, Wolf, there's a lot of talk in the blogosphere and conspiracy theorists who believe that this summit was really a secret plot, if you will, to establish a super government in support of big business, that even there would be some sort of super highway that would be traveling through all three of the countries. All leaders got quite a bit of a chuckle out of this one. We even heard from Prime Minister Harper, who said, look, they manufacture the rules for manufacturing jelly beans are different in Canada as well as the United States. If you standardize the jelly bean, it's not a threat to Canada's sovereignty. So obviously, a lot of suspicion on the part of what this summit was really about, but they assured people, look, there's nothing really to worry about.
A lovely time of the year to visit Quebec.
And President Bush apparently tries to blast our very own Lou Dobbs for trying to protect our sovereignty. We'll have that story coming up. President Bush today wrapped up the North American Summit with Mexico's President Felipe Calderón and Canada's Prime Minister Stephen Harper. The talks, part of the Security and Prosperity Partnership, covered security and trade issues. Critics say these talks are preparations for a North American Union which could threaten our sovereignty. President Bush tried to laugh off the critics. He took an apparent shot at our very own Lou Dobbs and our reporting on the threats the SPP may pose.
I'm amused by the difference between what actually takes place in the meetings and what some are trying to say takes place. It's quite comical, actually, when you realize the difference between reality and what some people are talking on TV about.
Well, this administration has been pushing for this SPP. There's been little transparency. Congress has been largely left out of the loop. Secretive meetings. The president may find it comical. Others find it very disturbing and outrageous. Time now for tonight's poll. Do you believe, as President Bush says, the concerns about the Security and Prosperity Partnership are comical? Yes or no? Cast your vote at LouDobbs.com. We'll bring you the results later in the broadcast. Now the results of tonight's poll. 95% of you do not believe, as President Bush says, the concerns about the Security and Prosperity Partnership are comical.